What's wrong with the Bengals? Well, I'm going to ask an expert, and that is Jase Rapien, and we're going to talk about the Cowboys and if they're the class of the East. We'll talk about all of that in just a second here on Locked On NFL.
You are Locked On NFL, your daily NFL podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's good, everybody? What's good in the hood? This is your man, Tony Wiggins, here with Locked On NFL, along with Jase Medical on a Wednesday. We're going to get down to it here on Locked On NFL in just a second, but we appreciate you joining us because Locked On NFL is your team every day. And we thank you for making us your first listen. A quick reminder that our Locked On NFL YouTube page is free to subscribe to. All you got to do is just tap in every day, hit the bell, hit the like button. The bell will give you notifications whenever we drop a new episode. And wherever you get your podcast, if you listen to audio podcasts while you're riding around in the streets, make sure you tap in every single day so you get Locked On NFL. Big shout out to the everydayers. Also, we have to give you guys your just due for joining us every single day. And if you're not an everydayer, you can be an everydayer just by listening every day. I think I said every day a whole bunch in the last 15 seconds. And we have to let you know also that today's show is sponsored by PrizePicks. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use the code all lowercase LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. James, I got to get right to it. You're my dude. We were talking about subjects, and I said, I got to talk about this. And it just so happens, a great coincidence that you are the host of Locked On Bengals, one of the hosts anyway. Let me know why the Bengals are struggling.
Oh, yeah. There's a bunch of reasons. Obviously, they start with Joe Burrow. And that's the big concern right now is Joe Burrow, his health, where they go from here. Overall, I think that they played two pretty talented teams, one on the road, which is always a tough matchup. The Browns are just a bad matchup for this Bengals offense. We've seen that time and time again. And then, let's be honest here, the Baltimore Ravens, if Lamar Jackson plays like that, they're a problem. And they're a problem for everybody that thought that Baltimore wasn't going to be a legitimate Super Bowl contender this season. So I certainly think that's part of it, but clearly the Bengals haven't played up to their potential, up to expectations, and now they have Joe Burrow's calf kind of lingering over things. And I think that that's the part that makes it tough. 0-2 is one thing, especially in the AFC where there's only two teams with 2 wins, right? After 2 weeks, a lot of teams are 1-1. So you don't feel like you're too far behind there. But where you do feel like you're behind is quarterback if you don't have Joe Burrow, certainly a close to 100% Joe Burrow. So that's kind of what's looming over the franchise right now.
I'm surprised they haven't been able to turn around and just run the football and do some things to help him out a little bit. Should he be playing? Is rest going to necessarily help it? Is it going to get better? Can he actually aggravate it to the point where it makes him have to miss a whole bunch of time and he's out for a prolonged period? And if that does happen, could we possibly be seeing Cincinnati struggle all season, being that they're in that tough division and they got a pretty healthy schedule outside of the division? They got to come down here.
Yeah, I think that's where people's heads are at. Or, man, should you shut him down? Should you put him on injured reserve for 4 weeks? That 5th week is a bye, so you give him 5 weeks of rest. It would make some sense to go that route if you weren't 0-2. You're 0-2. The margin for error is already razor thin. I think that when you talk to medical experts about this calf issue, it's just something he's going to have to deal with and learn to play through at some point. That doesn't mean you throw him out there next week on Monday night against the Rams. Maybe if he's ready to go. I haven't ruled him out, and the Bengals certainly haven't. But to me, it is tough to look at their current situation and say, all right, shut down Joe Burrow, they'll be fine. Like, are we sure about that? And you can't punt this season because they are that talented. Mm-hmm. I think this offensive line, one of the bright spots for the Bengals, this offensive line is legit, especially in pass protection. We've seen it We saw it the other day against the Ravens. I thought we saw flashes of it against the Browns, even though the Browns got to Burrow. I think that was as much of a Burrow and this offense and the weather. Like I said, the perfect storm. I talked about that on last week's show. So to me, there's still talent there, and they could still be a really, really good team and one of those contending teams. And so can they get Burrow to a point where he can play through this and play at a high level? He showed flashes of it in against Baltimore in Sunday's loss, but then he re-aggravated that calf issue. So I just, it's TBD, and it's all dependent on the shoulders of number 9. And I don't think you can just hold him out like someone, because if you do that, then you're going to look up and you're going to be 1-5 and be out of a tight AFC playoff race.
Without the benefit of watching their games the way that you do, I look at Jamar Chase's stats and I'm wondering, are they even trying to throw the ball downfield? You say they're pass protecting well. Are they even trying to find him in one-on-one situations? And if Joe isn't chunking the ball deep, how much of it is the fact that calf, it's his right calf, so that's that plant foot on a 5-step drop where he starts to generate all of that power?
Well, a lot of what they've called has been quick game. So you've seen bubble screens to Jamar Chase. They did have some one-on-one matchups in the Cleveland game. Burrow was off. The receivers didn't play particularly well either. So there were some go balls in that game, but that's something Jamar mentioned on Monday. And we'll see. I do think getting him in one-on-one situations, you take them all day long. He had a one-on-one against Rapien on Sunday on a 3rd down. Burrow takes it, and Rapien makes a great play on the ball and is able to ensure that Chase doesn't, swipes through his hands, throws Chase to the ground, make sure that he's not catching it. So to me, that's the key, is finding a way to get the ball to your playmakers, regardless of who your quarterback is, because you're right. The stats are ugly. 10 receptions for 70 yards. What are we talking about? First half stats? Like, oh no, wait, 2 games. We're talking 8 quarters. That's unbelievable to me. His longest catch is 13 yards. That cannot happen. That cannot continue. And you mentioned 5-step drops. I do think that that's part of it, is finding ways to generate explosive plays. If you don't want those longer developing plays because you just don't want Burrow taking the hits, that's fine. But you have to find ways to do that, whether it's scheme-wise, whatever the case is. And I don't necessarily think the Bengals have a scheme issue, but they certainly have a not getting Jamar the ball downfield or in a place to make plays issue. 10 receptions for 70 yards and 17 targets, none of which have been, at least the downfield ones, have been like, oh, man, he was wide open there and this guy made a play. No, I mean, there haven't been many clear, obvious, deep targets that make sense. So to me, that's something they have to clean up.
Yeah, man. So I'm kind of looking forward to seeing them actually do that, because, you know, it's just fun when you're right about the teams that you think are going to be good. And when those teams aren't good, then especially at the start of the year, and then the prospects of them actually catching up and getting better, you're like, is something wrong with Joe Burrow? Like, so from around the league perspective, folks were kind of glad to see Josh Allen get it back together this weekend. They're glad to see Pittsburgh recover a little bit and get it back together and see what they have going on. And then, of course, a better week for Jalen Hurts in Philadelphia. So we all like to be right. Now, there's another team that we always go back and forth about, the Dallas Cowboys. I'm not necessarily right on this one, even though they look like world beaters, man. And I'm smiling because I know how your little mind thinks. You're gonna sit there and start calling me a Dallas lover, and I'm
little
not.
mind. Okay,
yeah, little mind.
All right.
That's what you say. Little
right.
Whenever you're trying to diminish something that somebody like you could like win the lottery, I'll be like, yeah, I see you with your little lottery money. You know how that is. So I know how you work, James, and I know you're gonna sit here and try to tell me that it was me that chose the Dallas Cowboys. We're gonna talk about the Cowboys, and are they the class of the NFC? And is the NFC least or the NFC beast back? And are they the best division in the National Football Conference? We'll do that on Locked On NFL here in just a second.
Today's show is brought to you by eBay Motors. Our partners at eBay Motors have teamed up with Locked On Fantasy Football host Vinny Iyer to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each week, all season long. Whether you're prepping for a daily fantasy draft or scouting the waiver wire, every week we're going to provide you with players that are guaranteed to fit your roster. So let's see who has Vinny has picked out for us in this week's eBay's Guaranteed Fit Fantasy Picks of the Week. And Chiefs second-year running back Isaiah Pacheco hasn't delivered much to his fantasy football managers yet this season, but be sure to roll him out this week because there's plenty of production to be had on the ground, cleaning up against a bad Bears defense in week 3. Pacheco should break out some chunk runs with an excellent shot to score and provide punctuation in a home blowout. Vinny Iyer from Locked On Fantasy Football is going to help you win your fantasy championship, and eBay Motors knows a championship team is about each player being a perfect fit. The same goes for your vehicle. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you can make sure your ride stays running smoothly. From brake kits, LED headlights, roof racks, bumpers, whatever your baby needs, eBay Motors has it. And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber, not cash. And the best part, you can do it from the comfort of your own home. You don't have to go talk to Earl about headlights and model numbers. No, do it from the comfort of your own home. Find the check for eBay's Guaranteed Fit and find the headlights you're looking for. Find the parts you're looking for without leaving the comfort of your own home in those fuzzy slippers. Keep your ride or die alive at ebay.com/motors. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers, eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
All right, running it down here, Locked On NFL on a Wednesday is Tony Wiggins along with James Rapien. We talked about the Bengals and what their problems are with James Rapien, who covers the Bengals with Locked On Bengals. Now we got to talk about Dallas Cowboys. And Marcus Mosher isn't just going to appear on the screen. We're not getting Locked On Cowboys here, right? Because we don't need all that foolishness. But we have to admit something. The Dallas Cowboys.
Do we?
Okay, no, maybe. Well, you know what? Perhaps we don't have to admit it that the Cowboys have looked like world beaters, but we will admit that they caught a flat Giants team who still looked flat until the fourth quarter against the Arizona Cardinals, and they got the New York Jets without Aaron Rodgers and with the turnover machine that is Zach Wilson. So defensively, they have been great. Getting after the quarterback, Michael Parsons at the season ending right now would be probably Defensive Player of the Year. And no surprise to anybody that he's that good. But they looked a little bit more disciplined. Dak has played well, hasn't been turning the ball over the way folks thought he would because of what he did last year. Right now, the Dallas Cowboys look really, really good, and we got to give them their credit. Or we don't.
No, they look great, and they're going to look great again this week because they play Arizona. I mean, heck, if we were just talking about Joe Burrow, I mean, Joe Burrow could have his feet up if they're playing this schedule. I mean, Daniel Jones and the Giants, and then no Aaron Rodgers with the Jets. And by the way, the Jets didn't run the ball at all. Breece Hall had like 4 touches. Speaking about usage, I mean, ridiculous. And now they have Arizona. So they're going to beat the crap out of Arizona, and then they're going to get tested. Oh, yeah, that's right. Bill Belichick the following week. The Patriots, that defense will travel. I think that's going to be a really, really good matchup. That's the first real test. The good news for the Cowboys, they're at home. But I will agree with you. It does get harder after that. The 49ers are on the road. But the point is, I will agree with you. They are legit. And I do think that the Cowboys are one of the contending teams in this league because they can do everything that you would ask a team to do. Make quarterbacks uncomfortable. Make big plays. They have playmakers, whether it's Micah Parsons, obviously Diggs at corner, and they have playmakers on offense. And so when you mix all of that together and Dak isn't turning the ball over, they're going to be very tough to beat. And I think that they're one of the premier teams in this league. And even though Dak isn't in that elite category, if he's not turning the ball over, that's good enough. And we see this every few years. Defenses that are that good enough to make up for a quarterback that might just be good, not great. This is one of those scenarios where a good, not great quarterback, and I'm not being mean to Dak, by the way. I just don't think he's Josh Allen. I don't think he's Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Burrow when Burrow's healthy. I don't think he's those guys. But, man, this Cowboys team, I think they're legit. I love Tony Pollard in the backfield. I think their offensive line is held up, which you certainly need. We'll see if they can keep it going. but I think they are one of the elite teams, not just in the NFC, but in the NFL.
They look fabulous. They look like, and this is not to insinuate that they cheated. This is just an analogy. They look like they ate something in all season that other people didn't. They're alive, man. They are a live wire football team. They just look differently. I don't know about you. Sometimes I look at, maybe not this year, but it's like looking at when you watch college football on Saturday, you watch all these games and then Georgia comes on at 3:30 and you're like, oh, or Alabama comes on at 7:00 and you're like, oh, okay, I see. There's a difference. And right now they just got a little extra pep in their step, man. They're playing like their feet are on fire. And it seems like every single thing that they dial up is working. They got a little speedy back that backs up Pollard named Dowdle, who looks like Pollard. He runs.
Dowdle, yeah.
Yeah, they got receivers, and Shoemaker, the new tight end, caught a touchdown the other day. And it's just like these parts just don't stop. And the one thing that they can do, they can rush the passer. It seems like you can name them all, man. You can, Michael Parsons, but then you know about Lawrence, and then all of a sudden you turn around and there's this Sam Williams cat, and he's like, wait, well, who's that? There's another dude chasing the pass rusher. Dorrance, the kid from Kansas State. I always screw his name up, but yeah. It's just too many guys. You're like, they substitute people and they're still rushing the passer. And I'm glad you said it, because folks always talk about quarterbacks and they always, who actually does what part of a team does show up and show out every single year is people who can attack the quarterback from the other team. And you are spot on. We saw it here in Kansas. Kansas City came in here and disrupted Trevor Lawrence's day all day. So I think the teams that can rush the passer the way the Cowboys rush the passer are always going to be thought of as teams that can win. The 49ers, even through the years when they've had quarterback, I don't know, they've always been able to affect the quarterback from the other team. And I can't wait to see that game in a few weeks. God, I can't wait to see that game between those two teams in a few weeks.
San Francisco, obviously they play Philadelphia. They will get tested. They haven't really been tested yet. And I said the perfect storm thing about the Bengals. I think the same thing with the Giants. That was kind of a perfect storm type deal. Mm-hmm. They were at home, but clearly it was just some clown errors. You get down early and then you realize it's not your night and it's just over. And that's sometimes what happens in the league. So what I think, though, is obviously the Cowboys, they deserve credit for forcing that. Will they be able to keep it up? I certainly think so this week. And it's going to be interesting to see how far they can go, because I know Jerry Jones, he's looking for that next Super Bowl ring. And if he can get it this year, that would be quite an accomplishment. But it is time, Tony, to get to our Week 2 Locked On NFL Power Rankings. They are here. They are interesting. Will the Cowboys be number 1 in the Power Rankings? Find out next, right here on Locked On NFL.
Hey, man, if you want to get down with PrizePicks, then I'm going to tell you, get down with PrizePicks. But make sure you do it with our Locked On promo code. That's right, our Locked On NFL promo code. Because if you do that, guess what's going to happen? You're going to be able to go to PrizePicks and use the promo code Locked On NFL, and you're going to get your first deposit matched up to $100. Now, let me explain this to you. You should be down with PrizePicks, because if you're playing daily fantasy sports and it's not PrizePicks and you're not playing on the biggest, largest independently owned daily fantasy sports platform, it has to be PrizePicks. All you got to do is pick 2 or up to 6 of the stat projections and then decide whether it's more than or less than. It's that easy. And you can get paid. I know a bunch of people winning a bunch of money, and you can be them too. So let me repeat this again. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use Locked On NFL as a first deposit. For your code, you get a first deposit match up to $100. It shouldn't even be a question. You should be playing PrizePicks to win money. That's what I'm doing, and you need to do it too. Go to prizepicks.com or download the PrizePicks app.
Today's show is also brought to you by Jase Medical. The Jase case provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use, and all it takes to get a Jase case is fill out a simple online form, and in some cases, jump on a quick call with one of our board-certified physicians. You get ongoing care from Jase's physicians on any treatment-related questions, doctor-created, doctor recommended. And whether you have joint pain, whether you want to be prepared just in case there's supply chain shortages, natural disasters, pandemics, travel, this is what you need, is the Jase case. Jase Medical is simple. You go online, fill out a form, and you get prescription life-saving medications right to your door. The Jase case gives you the peace of mind so that you're not just hoping you have access to medication in an emergency, so that you do have it. Jase Medical makes sure you have the medication in hand, and you can save more than $360 by getting these life-saving antibiotics with Jase Medical, plus an additional $20 off by using code LOCKEDON at checkout at jasemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com, promo code locked on. Again, jasemedical.com, promo code locked on.
It is power rankings time, week 2. Can I call it week 2, even though we're headed towards week 3? This is our post week 2.
Oh, yeah. This is week 2 power rankings.
Of the Locked On NFL power rankings.
Or week 3. You're right. I'm wrong.
Three.
It's week 3.
But check this out. They didn't put the Dallas Cowboys first. They put the San Francisco 49ers first, and I don't have a problem with it. Then you have the Cowboys, the Eagles, Chiefs, Dolphins in the top 5, rounding out the top 10. Baltimore Ravens, Buffalo Bills, Jacksonville, even though after a loss, is still number 8. Detroit is number 9, and Atlanta is 10. You have any problem with any of that?
No, I don't. I think Dallas being where they are, I get it. They've looked cleaner than Philly. I think that's a heck of a game when they do finally play. The Chiefs at 4 makes sense to me. The Dolphins have been really impressive. The Ravens deserve to be up there too. No, I really don't have any issue with any of these. I do think it's interesting that people, at least Locked On Network hosts, buying into the Falcons a bit. The fact that they're in the top 10 is quite interesting to me. The Lions falling is interesting. But yeah, Atlanta, they're legit. It's just, can Desmond Ridder be good enough? And there's been times where we've seen he's been good enough, other times where he's not. Any thoughts on the top 10 before I get to 11 through 21?
No, I'm good with it. You know, we could look at Buffalo and the Jaguars and decide who lost to the better team. But other than that, it's nitpicking at this point. Plus, they play each other, so they'll settle that on the field. I think the top 10 is pretty good.
11, the Saints moving up 5 spots. The Seahawks moving up 8 spots to 12 following their win over the Lions, followed by the Packers. The Bengals dropping to 14, still in the top half, followed by the Browns, Rams, 2-0 Buccaneers, 0-2 Chargers. At 19, we have the Commanders, the Jets at 20, Steelers 21.
A little bit shocked that the Bengals are still at 14th, even though we all know what we expected. Joe Burrow's not healthy, and they have not looked good offensively. So I'm a little bit surprised that they are that high. Shout out to those Saints. That was one of those teams that we talked about that could surprise and win that division. But I got to say shout out to the Bucs too, because I thought the Bucs, who were sitting in our poll here at 17, I thought other than Arizona, they had the worst roster in the league. They don't, obviously, and they're sitting at 17. So I don't have a problem with that next group, although I would say the Commanders might be able to make a good argument, even though they haven't played 2 great teams, of why they should be a little bit higher.
Yeah. I think, I hate to say I told you so on the Bucs, but I think they're going to be okay. Not great, but okay. Speaking of okay, I think the Tennessee Titans are going to be okay and competitive, and they're at 22. The Patriots, man, if they had an offense, I really believe in that defense still. 23rd, followed by the Vikings, Colts, Raiders at 26, the New York Football Giants at 27, the Broncos, Hail Mary answered, but couldn't deliver. I think Russell Wilson might not be the starter in 2 weeks. Jarrett Stidham breathing down his neck, I think, behind closed doors. The Broncos at 28, followed by the Panthers at 29, Bears at 30, Justin Fields, oh no, and the Houston Texans 31, followed by the Arizona Cardinals in last for a third straight week.
Yeah, for all of those teams, I would tell you this: the Cardinals, you know, they should be where they are, but I will admit they played 2 games better than I thought they were going to play. So their fans can at least say, look, this thing is getting turned around in the right direction. Kind of like Houston played hard last year. The one team on here that I think 2 weeks in, you go, if you're a fan, you're like, we need a total reboot. I think it's the Bears already, and I feel sorry for Justin Fields a little bit, man, but sometimes when I watch the tape, he does hold the ball a little bit too long, and there are guys that are open, and they have tried to get him some help, but the Bears kind of just look like that team that's all over the place. They look like a whole bunch of leftover food in just one bin, and it's all kind of mixed together, and you don't know what it is. That's what they are, man. So of all of those teams, I think the fan base that should feel the worst about the immediate future as well as the not so immediate future are probably the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, I agree with you. They have not flashed. Do they keep DJ Moore long term, or do they flip him? I think that could be a question in a few weeks. Justin Fields, I mean, there was one time he ran into a sack, Tony, and it's a viral clip. It's been on social, and he's got a guy up the seam open. He's got the flat open, and he hesitates, and then just runs up the middle into a sack. And it's just, he's not seeing it. I'm surprised, and it stinks because landing spot is everything. And I wonder if that's it, because to me, I thought he was going to be a quality quarterback. I talked about Anthony Richardson at the start of the season. When you're that athletic, you can make it work usually when you're young. Mm-hmm. And Fields always felt, at least as a rookie, 2 steps behind where Richardson is right now, to me. And I know Richardson has some growing to do, by the way. I'm not saying that he's a complete product, but like that's kind of where it is, where if you have this a physical frame, elite skill set, you have the arm, all right, ease into seeing the coverages and go from there. Like Bryce Young doesn't have that advantage, so he better see it. The problem with Bryce, he's got me you're throwing to me. He needs some receivers down there in Carolina. Yeah. I like him, actually. I think he's pretty good. He's managing things well, but it's a tough roster to win with.
Yeah, to me, I echo what you said about Bryce. It just looks like all you got to do is just surround him with some people, right?
Yep. Yeah. He's calm, comfortable. Doesn't look too big for him. It's a size joke. Oh God, I did not mean that.
Yeah, I get you. I was sitting here, I'm saying these things right themselves, bro. I'm just gonna sit here and just let you go, let you cook. But still, with the Bears, man, it's like with him, with Justin Fields, a lot of talk when he came out was, why is he staring down receivers? And I talked to my friend Denny Thompson, and that knows that program, and other quarterback coaches have said, y'all don't know what you're talking about. If they're empty on one side or the guy on the other side comes in motion and they end up with trips on one side and all the action is over there, why would he not be looking over there? So you're not giving the play away by him looking over there. He just has to know who to throw it to. There's option routes. The Patriots ran them all the time. Brady stared the side of the field a lot. And because you had 2 or 3 dudes over there doing something, and you had to make a quick decision on where you're going to throw it. But some of the things that we've seen on tape right now are inexcusable. Inexcusable with Justin Fields. And you wonder, was it him all along, or did he get beat up enough last year, or is he trying too hard to change himself into something that he's not? And I heard that mentioned yesterday as a possibility, that instead of just being that dude that is mobile and it can get out and run and throw and do all of this stuff, is he sitting back there trying to act like he's Tom Brady? And if that's the case, then he shouldn't be doing it. But either way, something's off and something has to be fixed. And if not, I got a feeling that people are going to start trying to replace him sooner than not.
And the beauty, if you're the Bears, you have 2 firsts this year. And so do you get the first pick? Could you imagine if their Carolina pick is in the top 5 and their pick is number 1? Like, you want to talk about quarterback and weapons? There's that Harrison kid in Columbus up north of me, and that'll fix your problem real quick if you get that quarterback from USC and you pair him with Harrison. I'm just
or the quarterback from North Carolina. Or check this out. I'm gonna whisper this. Or the kid from Colorado. We never know. We never know.
He is legit. He's
legit, man. He reminds me of your quarterback. He reminds me of Burrow. Because he can run, but it ain't like he don't have to run. He runs to keep looking downfield. So there's a calmness and coolness about that kid, and I'm sure Vinny Iyer is going to talk about him a lot coming up.
Yeah, I think so too. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube, follow wherever you get your podcast, and thank you so much for listening to another episode of Locked On NFL. For Tony Wiggins, I'm James Rapien. We'll talk to you next time.